Good afternoon, all the people out there. It's a privilege to have you all on board at the first Sherpa Talk, and a special privilege for us for having Marais with us. We normally just see Marais on the screen standing with the finger in the air and say, you're out. So this afternoon, hopefully we're going to learn how to do that, and also to give us some more interesting ideas about how to do umpiring in cricket. But before that, all of you know that this is a collaboration between the Summit Education Summit and Schoolscape, and Schoolscape has been a partner for the Summit for many, many years. And we've decided with this year, we didn't have a summit. We want to do something like this, and we've got the idea of having the Sherpa Talk. And Marais was supposed to be one of our presenters this year at Summit, and I know as soon as the World Cricket opens again, he'll be gone. So we thought fantastic having him here and asking him the questions and hear what he's doing when he's out there. So we're going to start immediately with Marais. Marais, welcome at Sherpa Talk, the first Sherpa to be the talker on Sherpa Talk.
Thanks, Rian. Yeah, it's an honor to be part of this.
Okay, we've only got 30 minutes roughly. If we find we have a few minutes more and you want to stay with us, you're welcome. But I promise you we'll try and be inside the 30 minutes. Now, most of you know Marais, but in short, I'm going to give you his CV. It's a long one. I've asked him to write a blurb for the summit, the program, and he said he was born in the Southern Cape. I don't know precisely where, but he supports the Boland. He's married for almost 27 years. Maybe it's already 27 now, Marais. I don't know, to Adele. He's the father of two twins, both boys, Hugh and Chris. They're 23 years old, if I've got my mathematics right. And then his biggest privilege, he's getting paid to travel around the world and watch cricket. That sounds like a teacher. Eh? That sounds precisely about teaching. And then some other journalist said about Marais the following. I want to read you this, what this guy said. And it was all very, very, very positive. He said Marais Erasmus is a South African umpire. And we'll get back to this umpire thing, who is one of the most prominent faces in the current panel of international umpires. We're not going to talk about the date he was born. He was a player and umpiring for about 15 years. And over the years, he's established himself as a dependable and an eagle-eyed administrator of a cricket match. Marais, the first mistake we made, we called you a referee. And you said to me, you're not a referee, you are an umpire. So please explain for me, what's the difference between a referee and in cricket?
So in cricket terms, an umpire is the guy who's on field, and we manage the field and make the decisions and make sure that play is done in a fair way. The referee is at the elite level, are all former test cricketers, and they manage the game from the side. For the game, they would do the toss, and even before that, in the days leading up to the match starting, they would liaise with the local authorities and make sure that everything is in place for this particular game. And then once the game is on, they are assessing umpires, they're handling the code of conducts when we report misbehaving players. So these guys are called match referees, but it's understandable because in Afrikaans we talk about scheidsrechters, and that's in rugby terms the same. But these guys are called match referees of a wedstrijd scheidsrechter in Afrikaans.
Okay. And then I've also read somewhere there's like they call the third team in a match. So would that be the referee? And is there some other sort of officials that we don't see on the screens and never hear about?
Yeah, we call them ourselves the third team that's part of the game. It's also called the PCT, or the playing control team. So those would be the match referee, the two on-field umpires, the TV umpire, or the third umpire. And then there's also a fourth umpire, or reserve umpire. So we do all those roles as umpires, on-field, TV, and fourth would be entrance level. So in 2006, in the most memorable 438 game that South Africa beat Australia when both teams scored those massive totals, I was actually the fourth umpire because that was my first year of international cricket. But nowadays, obviously, I do that role very few times, and I would mainly be on-field or TV umpire in international matches.
Okay. Now a little bit more about that. Your childhood days, before I go for high school, because I know you went to a prestigious high school in the northern suburbs called Hoërskool DF Milan. You've also been the head boy of that school. And tell us a little bit about your childhood days. Where you were born in the Southern Cape, where, and you moved to, I would presume, Bellville. A little bit about your childhood days.
I was born in George, and then I was very young when we moved to Cape Town, I think less than 2. First in the southern suburbs in Newlands, and then since 1969 we moved to Bellville. I went to school to Fredler's Primary School and then DF Milan. So yeah, childhood days in the 70s were, different times that as a kid you didn't know what was happening in your own country. But it was great opportunities that we had going to school, and just being a kid who loved sport. I could play at both junior and senior school, cricket and rugby during winter and summer as much as I liked. Passion that we got from, especially my father, although my mother is also quite passionate about sport, but my father took us to Newlands Rugby and Cricket Ground, and initially I was a Western Province supporter. But because I played for Boland, both rugby and cricket, I became a Bolander at heart. And I've been living in the Boland for the last 21 years.
You're residing now in Malmesbury. And you was also a head boy of DF Milan in 1982, if I'm correct.
That's correct, yes.
I've checked out dates. I've just missed you with a year, not being head boy, but being a teacher there afterwards. I started at 83, and that's why I say the prestigious school. Marais, but you was also a very well-rounded sportsman. You just not only participated in cricket at school, but you also excelled in rugby.
At school, maybe not. I was a bit of a late developer, so I was actually about 27 when I played provincial rugby. But I did, when I was at Paul Teachers College, played for SA colleges at both cricket and rugby level. So, I was always passionate and very committed to both. At one stage, I actually thought I was a better rugby player than a cricketer, but in the end, it proved to be the other way around.
What position in rugby?
Well, it's about 25 years and 25 kilograms ago. I played fly-off fullback.
Fullback, okay, yeah, okay. Marais, and then you mentioned teacher college. Why teaching? Why did you decide to go in teaching? Normally, teachers don't know why they became a teacher. They just ended up being a teacher. They were called. So why did you decide to go into teaching?
I probably made that decision when I was about 15 because my mother wanted me to go into law, and I had to take Latin at DF Milan. And I deliberately failed Latin in end of grade 9, so I couldn't take it in grade 10 because I didn't want to. But I come from an education sort of background. My paternal grandfather was headmaster at Overberg Primary School in Caledon. My mother is a teacher. My sister's a teacher. I've got plenty cousins in education. So yeah, I made that decision quite young that I wanted to do that.
Okay. And then you started teaching. We're not going to say all the schools when you taught at, but I must think when you started being an umpire and then to make the decision to leave the education must have been a difficult one for you.
It was, but it actually had a lead up. When I started teaching in 1991, I was very lucky to be with a headmaster called Eddie Conradi. He got involved in the Kiro schools.
Yeah.
And Eddie understood that me playing rugby and cricket at that stage at provincial level of the role model I could be for the kids. And so right from start, my very first year of teaching in 1991, there was always that commitment at school and sometimes away from school because of sport commitments. And that just actually flowed when I started umpiring in 2000 at club level. And I spoke to the headmaster at the school I was then and explained to him that this could change in a year or two if I'm successful in this. I didn't think at the time he realized what that change meant and that I could be away from school for a month, which happened at the end of my teaching stint. And that was in 2007. And so that came when I had to make that difficult decision, but it was actually made quite abruptly. I had a meeting with the headmaster, and I was one of 2 deputy headmasters at the time. And I just said to him, I think, this is not going to work. I'm serving too many gods here, and something's going to go amiss. And told him I'm resigning, and then went home for lunch and told my wife. So it was never a discussion. And obviously then we started panicking because I was only on an 8-month contract with Cricket South Africa at the time. And it was only in a rand contract and not a dollar contract, which I managed to get from 2010. So yeah, I just knew at that stage I had the taste of international cricket because I started in 2006, and I thought I need to back myself here, and luckily it worked out well.
Okay. A question about schooling again. How did the other staff react, you being away for a month? And then you came back, everybody saw you on the TV screen, especially this older teachers. What did they say to you during that month away?
Typical of teaching, they never spoke to me, obviously, in person. But yeah, I'm not sure. I think I managed it fairly well in the fact that financially the schools actually benefited from me being away, because I paid my replacement teacher legally. I'm not sure if it's legal, but I did. And then I managed to get all the memorabilia from the players, which we auctioned off for the school and, raised money. In the end, I think I paid my dues.
Yeah, that worked. The time is running out. You said you're going to talk at the summit. Your title for your talk would have been Inspiring Greatness One Ball at a Time. So we thought we're going to give you a few minutes to make a summary of what you would have said in 50 minutes in about 3 minutes. And I know you can do that. You can do that. In 3 minutes, just give us sort of an idea what you would have said to the summiters this year, inspiring greatness one ball at a time.
I'll try. Hopefully not interrupt myself and go off the beaten track too far. But in cricket, we have a saying, one ball at a time. And that is actually just to remind us to stay in the moment. Because if you're working in a stressful environment, you can easily maybe lose focus. And so we use this all the time to remind ourselves just to worry about the next ball. And in that way, sometimes I work in stadiums where there's 80,000 people watching. I was involved last year during the World Cup in a match when India played Pakistan, where estimated 1 billion people watched the game either on television or live streaming, etc. And if you think of that thing, you're going to lose focus very, very quickly because you might feel intimidated. And on a lighter side, sometimes teachers complain about 1 or 2 parents, bothering them or giving them a bit of grief. I sometimes have millions of people telling me how to do my job, and therefore I'm not on any of Facebook or any of those. But it's more important that this philosophy that we have goes with another one. And we say you can only be a good umpire if you are a good person. So you need to be true to yourself. You need to stay focused in those values that you have and stick to them. Now, obviously we as umpires prepare very, very well. When you go to a series, it actually starts before I leave. So I make sure I know all the laws. But we also study the teams and the characters in those teams that we are involved in. So how do you apply these philosophies to education? And it is important that a teacher breaks his massive task, and especially now with kids coming back after the coronavirus issues, it's going to be catch-up time for teachers, and they're going to be under pressure. So break up what you need to do into small compartments. So you don't look at this whole thing and see, goodness me, I've got to catch up 2 months of work. It's going to be impossible. Break it down into simple things like we do in cricket. Only just the next ball, maybe the next period, whichever class is in front of you. And then you need to prepare very specific. As we go to nets, we study players at the nets. We also build bridges with those players because it's a non-confrontational situation. It's not a match day. And that puts us in good stead when we do have them in a match day situation and they feel, the pressure and that way we can easily solve those issues. So make sure that you prepare very well. The other thing that we did, and when I started umpiring internationally, technology also became part of it. Now, when I left teaching, technology wasn't a big part as it is now, but especially for the older teachers, embrace technology. And we had to do that in cricket, and now we make sure that technology actually works for us. So I would advise teachers to make sure that you maximize the use of technology, and most likely they did now during the COVID-19 situation because they were forced to. And that way you can easily make sure that you fulfill your potential, but you also fulfill the potential of those kids sitting in your classes. So that is my 3 minutes of 50 minutes.
Marais, thank you very much. Somebody asked a question, Marie van Heerden, is this going to be broadcast? This is broadcasting now. Is this going to be recorded so that people can watch this again and again? Yes, we're definitely going to record this for you, and you can get in, as far as I know, on the same site again and see it later on for people who's been missed out just at the register. We're also thinking of putting this onto YouTube that you can have whenever you want to go back and see all the Sherpa Talks that's still coming along. So, okay, now you've heard from Marais, but I've also got a little bit more in his bio, and there's so many stuff I can't even remember it. Marais was being the South African umpire of the year, if I can't remember all the years, but he's also been the international umpire of the year twice, Marais, if I'm correct, 2016 and 2017. They call it the Dave Shepherd Trophy.
Yeah, it's named after the famous England umpire Dave Shepherd, who was a legend in umpiring circles. That and umpiring the World Cup final last year was probably the two umpiring highlights, because both cases I became the first South African to win the award and then the first South African to be on field in a World Cup final. So yeah, those are, up to this stage, my highlights in umpiring.
Especially, sorry, it's about being the first South African. That's quite important to me. And then also being an ex-teacher, that's making it even more special for me.
I think two things helped me in umpiring. And that's obviously the fact that I had a cricket first-class playing record. I think players respect former players a little easier. If it's a fair judgment, not necessarily, but that's what actually happens. And the second thing is my teaching background gave me that opportunity to learn how to work with people. And umpiring is managing people all the time. And probably a third thing I can add is umpiring is very much like teaching. You need to want to do it, because it's not an easy job. And it's not, you don't do it for the money, but you need to want to be there and being assessed and criticized, sometimes overly criticized. So that environment sometimes is unfriendly, but it's a fantastic challenge and a fantastic privilege.
Okay. I've asked questions. I didn't throw it open all the questions, and I'm sorry we can't answer all the questions. But I've asked primary school, the summit is there to give me a few questions that they want to ask you, and they've sent me a whole list. Thanks, Cambridge, for that. So I'm going straight to these questions. The first one I ask me is to ask you: who is the most respected non-cricket playing sportsman?
In my view, I would say Federer, Roger Federer. I'm a massive Roger Federer fan. If you read his book, or one of the many books written about him, he was quite a brat at high school level and someone who threw his rackets, and his father just sat him down and said, if you want to act like that, I'm not going to allow you to play. And ever since we got to know him as people who watch tennis, then he's just always been so respectful, and obviously his graceful style of playing obviously helps that perception.
Marais, another one. Following an appeal from the bowler, this is a whole paragraph. You have given a batsman out or not out. There is a referral and your decision is overturned. How do you manage to put the fact that you have been proven wrong out of your mind and continue with confidence and not doubting yourself? Does the overturned decision have any effect on the next decision we'll have to make?
I would be lying if I say no, it doesn't affect you. Obviously, it does affect you. But I think I recently read something that one of my former colleagues who retired after the World Cup last year, Ian Gould, he says the modern day umpire, when he walks onto the field, he leaves his ego in the change room. And in the old age, before we had the decision review system, umpires were always right. Our generation realizes that technology sometimes is just better. The human eye apparently sees at 50 frames a second. We're competing with cameras up to 1,000 frames a second. So there will be decisions that it's impossible to have correct, and technology will prove it to be correct. So what I normally do is, while there's a review on the go, I can also watch it on the big screen. I quickly learn, what I saw and my interpretation of that. Was I far off? What did I miss? And then as we say in our trade, we park it. You have to accept your errors to move on. When I did some work with Tim Goodenough, which is a sports psychologist, he said, you have to admit when you make an error, otherwise that error will haunt you. So we get taught that, otherwise it will obviously play on your mind, and it could be the first day of a 5-day match, and then you sit with that something bothering you for the next 4 days. So we use those skills, and those tools rather, to accept it and move on.
Okay. What happens do you wear a heart rate monitor on the field or not? What happens? Have you tested before when they say, sorry, Marais, you're wrong? What happens?
I'll tell you a story. This happened about 10 years ago in the Ashes in Australia. Now, my whole family, we have a very low heart rate. Mine's still less than 50. And I wore this heart rate monitor knowing this, but I didn't tell the guy about it. And then there was an appeal, and followed by an immediate DRS. And in those moments, my heart rate shot up from 50 to the 90s. So if you think that we stand there and we are all just calm, it's impossible to stay calm in those circumstances. Yeah, so outwardly, we might look very calm, and that's probably something you have to manage, because if players see that you are feeling the pressure, then they will, like a pack of dogs, they will hunt you down. So luckily, I can stay calm and, maybe show the presence in those tough situations.
Okay, let's move on. Which role of the third umpire do you like the most, and which role do you dislike the most?
Well, I don't mind the third umpire role. The on-field role is far more challenging because you have a millisecond to make your decision. And I think on-field errors are accepted much easier because people know the umpire on-field only had a millisecond to make that decision. TV umpire, the pressure we have there is that we're not supposed to make an error because we can have so many replays and have a look at it. And so that comes with a slightly different pressure. I've been involved in, I think, nearly 100 matches as TV umpire at the international level. So I am quite experienced, and we also do a lot of preparation, getting ready for that role as well. The role has developed a lot in the last 10 years. But I enjoy that, but I would prefer to be on field.
Okay, if I remember correct, you stood in more, or you officiated in more than 300 professional matches.
Just international matches, I've been involved in more than 300. That's on-field TV umpire and fourth umpire, and obviously do a lot of provincial games when my international schedule allows that. So yeah, all in all, it could be nearer to 500-600 matches professional.
Marais, this is an interesting one. If you want to skip this one, it's fine. I'm going to name the player because it's written down there. How irritating is Virat Kohli in the field?
Virat Kohli is, the perception about Virat Kohli is that he's arrogant and irritating. But Virat Kohli is overly passionate, and he's actually quite respectful. So when he overplays his hand a little bit in a particular match, and we reprimand him, he's really respectful and apologizes and tries. There's many other captains in the world that I wouldn't say I don't trust them, but you can see they come with an agenda. And I think Virat he's just passionate. He's the spur of the moment. He reacts. There's no venom, supposed to be with it. But he's not stupid, and he knows how to intimidate people with his body language, how to tempt them to do something wrong. I was involved in a game where he just blew a kiss at Ben Stokes, and Ben Stokes, being hard-blooded, redhead, he swore back at him, and Ben Stokes got the fine and not Virat. So, it was quite clever sportsmanship there.
Do you think your being an educator help you with discipline on the field?
I do. I'm also luckily a big framed person, and I can take my sunglasses off and give them a sturdy look and, intimidate them in that way. But I think a calm approach in those circumstances is important. And as I said earlier, luckily I can stay calm in stressful situations. And being a good communicator is very important. So, if you can quickly settle things, and also knowing cricket, having played at a high level, you can see when things are going in a certain direction, and therefore you can stop it earlier. Whereas someone who has got lesser playing experience might not anticipate that.
I've read somewhere you say you take your glasses off when you speak to them.
We do take our sunglasses off, yeah. So they must see the seriousness in our eyes, and they must realize, because, if you hide behind the sunglasses, they might not get the message. So it's important that you do take them off.
Okay, we're running out of time, Marais. I'm going to finish up with two questions from Cambridge again. Have you ever picked up an injury whilst umpiring? Indeed, yes. Please elaborate.
I've been, in the 2020 game, the guys smashed the ball, and the cricket bats are now so big, and the ball comes fast. So I've been hit quite a few times. It's always been a ricochet off the bowler, and the ball changes direction. So I see the initial line, and I get out of the way. So I've had a few bruises. Luckily, no breaks yet. But there's some umpires who umpire with helmets, and there's my Australian colleague Bruce Oxenford, who uses the shield he puts on his forearm. Yeah, but as a former fly-off, I think I'm still nimble enough.
Last one from Kenridge. Your most favorite city and least most favorite city to umpiring? It's not about having the food there, umpiring there.
Yeah. Sylhet in Bangladesh is really a sad place. I wouldn't even send my mother-in-law there. And then I really like all the Australian cities, and I obviously like going to UK and especially London. It's a fantastic place. There's so many different things to do. I've been lucky enough to be there. I've gone there 10 or 15 times, and still every time you find something new to do in London. So I would say London is probably my most favorite city.
In short, I think going to the IPL must be an experience of a lifetime. Is it like we see it on TV, passionate, vibe, excitement, or not?
It is. It's probably more than that, because everywhere in the world except for India, I can move freely and go to shopping malls, and maybe one really sad cricket follower will recognize me, say in Melbourne. But in India, you can't move out the hotel, and it's chaos. Security has to go with us. So you can imagine what it's like for the players. Virat Kohli, he can never go outside. It's chaos. I've been in certain places where there's been total madness, because the moment they realize, oh yeah, there's an IPL umpire, and it's chaos, and security, ask us to leave because it's going to cause a riot.
Marais, 5 days is a long time. How do you keep your concentration up? Do you see somebody walking there and think, not too bad? Or do you think, what do I have for dinner tonight? This is again.
Yeah, obviously, I mean, a 5-day match is about 7 hours, 6.5, 7 hours a day. You cannot just be at the high level of intensity all the time. So what we do is we go up and down. We don't go on and off. So we just go up and down. So the moment the ball's dead, we just keep watching the ball, but you're not in that hyper sense of concentration. Then once the bowler starts running in, then you do focus. And obviously, every other over, you're at square leg, where you're still concentrating, but it's not, you're not at the real sharp end. So yeah, we break it up in those little compartments, and then try and survive like that. But the challenge is in Test match cricket is if you have a tough first day and you maybe make 1 or 2 errors, to keep focusing on the next day and the next day and the next day. And subsequently, when you could have 4 fantastic days, like I remember happened in Adelaide with me, and then the very last day, you have a challenging day because the match situation is different. And the pitch, obviously, by then has taken a lot of wear and tear. And it is very difficult to umpire with balls spinning and spitting. So those are challenges. But, we are fit. We do a lot of conditioning work to be able to concentrate for those many hours.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we had a 30-minute mark. So if you want to jump off and go watch the car or you have a COVID test, that's the time to leave us now. We would understand completely, but we really finished. We've got so much more to ask, Marais. But in closing, Marais, did I read correctly or heard correctly? You're busy with a book or thinking about writing your memoirs or what? It's just something I've missed.
I have started, but if you want to sell a book, you need to be writing something about someone. And I'm not sure that I'm in the game for that. So at this stage, when I'm done with umpiring, I still want to be involved, either as a match referee or as an umpire coach. Controversy sells books. I'm not sure that I want to burn the bridges that I've built in the last 15 years of international umpiring. So yeah, I'm not sure if I'm going to write a book for the broader public, but maybe one for family.
But also for history's sake and for your grandchildren who's coming, with that 2 boys of you. So for the grandchildren to hear what Grandpa did. Marais, we're going to close with a rapid fire, but not just, yes, I saw the aeroplane crash, 1 sentence qualifying why. Would it be an Apple or Android for you?
I'm an Apple fan. Yeah, I think because you can, join so many devices, makes things much easier.
But it's also like intellectual for deaf and lump people that you have to use the Apple thing. Forget about that. Wine or beer?
Wine, definitely, yeah. 2 years ago, we actually, myself and my wife, won wine for a year. Now, that is a fantastic gift. Yeah.
South African wine?
Yeah, South African wine. First sighting, if I may advertise.
Sure, fantastic, man. Stuff never happens to me. Would you go on holiday, bush or the sea?
Definitely the sea, yeah. Hermanus, happy to die in Hermanus.
Watching the boats, but don't die now. There's still a lot of matches left. Braai or fine dining?
No, braai, definitely.
Do you get enough time when you're overseas to braai, or do they call it barbecue?
They do, and when they do it on gas, they want me to do it. And I said, sorry, I won't do it on gas. So we do get the odd occasion, but nowhere like South Africa.
Australians with their barbie, or what do they call it, the barbie?
Yeah, I've actually have a friend in Birmingham who's now built himself a proper braai, and so I've at least convinced one person that the gas is not the answer. He does use the briquettes, but that's the closest he can get. Yeah.
Last one, Marais. Tent or hotel? You would have answered it roughly in the previous one. I'll give you a chance today. Tent or hotel, which one?
Tent or hotel? I was in infantry school, and that said that I had enough of tents, so hotel definitely.
Tents and varkpanne. So you've had your share of that. Marais, thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to close at 35 minutes already. It was a fantastic privilege having Marais with us. Marais, I think all the people who've listened to this afternoon and who's going to listen and watch again, next time they see you on the field there, with your hat on and watching and finger in the air and taking your sunglasses off. They're going to have a completely different perspective about being an umpire. I want to thank you from Summerside as well as Schoolscape and all the people out there for being a South African that's really making our country proud to be South African. So, and we wish you well on your any ventures you do from now on. We hope all the international air travel start, that you can go on. We're really fed up of watching replays. We want to see live action again, and God bless you and safe travels wherever you're. It was a privilege having you on as the first Sherpa on Sherpa.
Thank you, Rian. It was an honor.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching and listening. There'll be a next Sherpa Talk in July. I want to thank the Schoolscape team, Peter, Dan, and Anneke in Oudgraafrenet already. And Marais again, good having you here. And to all of you, mooi loop, safe travel, lekker lewe, tot ziens.